To keep you waiting.
Be short. So, look, we first of all, let's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah. Wa nasta'in wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Al-Qasimi Mustafa Muhammad. Ala ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-muntajirin. سيما على بقية الله في الأرضين وهم زماننا حجة الله القائم المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعن الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. السلام عليكم. So, look, the idea is for us to understand a very simple thing. Nobody will come and attack monotheism by knocking on the door and say, hey, you know, you are wrong. And because of this, because of this, because of that. Nobody does that. Who does that? Nobody does that. Right? So the way we are challenged in our life, right? The way we are challenged is because or through our um, you know they will put proposition that will explain the worldview in a way that external elements will become irrelevant. So, for example, they will say matter is sufficient. This would be one way or the other. But the bottom line of all the conversation will be that matter is sufficient to explain. Now, whether they do it through perpetuity of cause and effect or through the perpetuity of cause and effect in a what you call as the infinite regression or the infinite progression, meaning like 0.1, 0.001, 0.001, 0.00000, meaning it's a process which is never ending, no matter where you want to take. So it's an infinite regression or progression, or 1 million, 1 billion, 1 quadrillion, 1 gazillion, and 1 trillion, and so on and so on. Either you go this way or that. So either that is one of the way to do it, or the other way is what the communists say. Now, the first one is easier to tackle, relatively speaking, the one that I just mentioned, is because you can simply state the summation of all the regressive or progressive entities will still will not be devoid of cause. And since cause cannot be intrinsic, therefore has to be extrinsic, because intrinsic will be contradiction. So we have discussed this before. So I think this is relatively easier for us to tackle. But if not, then we can sure go ahead and address that at another time. So that's the gist of it there. Moving on. Coming to the dialectic part of it. The dialectic had, so I just touched the basic of it, because once I have discussed with you the basics of dialectic, then it becomes easier for me to expand upon it and then show you that this expansion is actually nothing but amplification of a noise which was initially created by the root issue in by itself. And if you apply the same principle of understanding that you applied to the root to the expansion, you will be able to handle it. So that is the gist of it. So the dialectic materialism in its root, in the when 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 everything is said and done, they can bring social examples, experimental examples, scientific ones, mental constructs, and so on and so forth, whichever way they look at things. At the end of the day, they believe and they present that within the entity lies its negation, and through the union of that negation and that entity, right, comes the birth of another entity, which then carries on the same cycle. So, and therefore, one fundamental law of conservation of mass states matter can neither be created nor be destroyed. So that makes matter eternal, and it can be only interchanged to energy, and vice versa. Or, or what happens is they say, okay, um, so that makes matter in by itself old, doesn't need what you call um, a creator. And by the way, if the matter has an inherent property of change through contradiction, then matter does not need an entity external to it to bring about changes that we are experiencing in the outside. Okay. So that's where it takes to. That's why this is one of the concept of materialism, meaning matter in by itself is sufficient to explain the universe, and therefore metaphysics is obsolete and does not and is not. So you understand what is at stake, right? So it's not just a few words or a gaffe of someone, but it's a fundamental ideology which negates and comes in direct opposition to the theistic ideology. It's an atheistic ideology, right? So this is where I would like, and I said to you, don't make it because the more you make it complicated, the difficult it becomes for you to solve it. Okay, it's truly not complicated. Okay, focus, and that is why I've been trying to bring your attention to the basics of understanding what contradiction is. And I deliberately gave you a Western example last time so that you can understand how their understanding of contradiction and our understanding of contradiction is different. Okay, and we discussed that in on Friday. Right. Okay, so when we discussed contradiction, we said that it has to have certain conditions that should be common in all the entities where we are, and then there should be a not associated with it when we are talking about contradiction, right? So for example, for us a contradiction would be, right, for us a contradiction would be that if a matter is existing and not existing at the same time, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. For us a contradiction would be that matter is at rest and not is at rest at the same time.
Exactly.
Yes, within the same eight conditions being constant. Correct?
Yes.
For us a contradiction would be if a matter is a negatively charged particle and a positively charged particle, the same particle at the same time in the same space, in the same context, and the rest of it, right? Huh?
I guess since you didn't use
If
the
a
word
proton,
not, it's
huh?
a bit more confusing, but I think so. I think that's right.
So if let me give you an example. If a proton being a proton, while it is positive in the same time and space and context and everything being the same, okay, while it is positive, it is also not positive.
Uh,
Oh, not
exactly.
right? That's a contradiction.
Yeah, it sounds like a contradiction.
Right? No, it's a contradiction, correct? No matter what it is, negative, neutral,
Exactly.
whatever, doesn't matter. Correct? Not positive. Correct? So these people of dialectic materialism, when they are talking about matter, they are talking matter in a Daltonian manner, meaning Dalton in 1850s proposed that matter is consistent or consists of homogeneous entities called atoms, which are unit in by themselves. Okay, my point is that these when they are talking about a matter being both this and that at the same time, this and that at the same time, positive and negative at the same time, right? So why we have a problem with matter being positive and negative at the same time? We have no problem with it. Why? Because what is positive is not negative. What is negative is not positive, even though they both are part of matter. Okay. So let me give you another example. Okay.
What do we mean by
Uh,
positive and negative?
I'll tell
Maybe I
you.
don't know. Okay.
Right. So let us start from a very basic example and then build on it. Okay. Very basic example is we have neutrons and electrons, or protons and electrons. They are both part of matter. Protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged. They both coexist in matter. Is their coexistence a contradiction?
No,
No. Why? Because subject matter is different, right? One is proton,
exactly.
the other
Some
is
matter
electron.
is proton and some matter is electron.
This is the subject matter is different, correct?
Exactly. The subject matter is different.
Subject matter is different. Here you're talking about a proton, here you're talking about electron. So do we have a problem with it? No.
No.
Which means you have misapplied the concept of contradiction. This is not a contradiction.
Yeah, this is not a contradiction.
This is
Exactly.
not a contradiction, right? So,
Exactly.
right. So, and this is where it is very important for you to know what is a contradiction. Because if you don't know what is a contradiction, then how will you know what this is not one? You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now take another step forward. So this part is clear, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So next is matter is in one form. Let us say whatever form it is. I mean, it's in the form of a play or whatever. It is in a form, right? Within this form are forces that are keeping it together, and then there are forces that are, you know, trying to break it apart. Correct? And it's in a state of equilibrium, right? Are the forces that are trying to keep it together the exact same one that are trying to break it apart?
No. The
The
gravity is one of the ones that are trying to break it apart.
yeah, cohesive forces are the ones that are keeping it together, while the destructive forces are the ones that are trying to keep it apart. Do they both exist in matter? Yes. But are they the same subject matter? No. You understand? So, so they're not the same subject matter, right? Amin is
Correct.
thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're just talking about basically how descriptive are you being with the words, if I'm understanding correctly. Like
This is
if you
important.
use too broad terminology, then it can seem like there's a logical problem. But if you break things down into their components,
You will see there is no
then
problem.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that is what I've been trying to, I gave you hints a lot. I gave you the hint before that our contradiction and their contradiction is different. I again gave you a hint that stick to the basics. Okay, stick to the basics. Okay.
yeah. Just so you know,
This
I'm
way,
not super, I never really became a fan of theirs. So I never really dug deep into their thing. So
yeah,
just so you know, like I might
right.
be I might be missing the context of what we're comparing to, but
Right, no problem,
I
no
appreciate
problem.
them.
But this is important because they are our number one adversary in the universities and colleges, etc. And all they do is they create noise, and their noise is fancily worded, and therefore people get easily distracted. So they would say that in the social context, the bad people of the society and good people of the society are always in conflict, and once the conflict reaches its peak and the conflict happens, the outcome of that is the change through the revolution that it brings, that conflict brings. Okay. Again, that is not a contradiction because those people who are good people, those people who are bad people, they are different set of people. It's not a contradiction. Those people who are bourgeois, those people who are proletariat, they are part of society. They come into conflict to create a communist state, which is the panacea of communism. We have another problem with that, and they have a problem that they cannot answer to that too, which is once the panacea has been achieved in communism, you have become communist, right? The communism has come, everything is now stable, right? Well, that means there is no further growth available. You finished, you're stagnant now because you became communist, right? So there is no conflict there. If there is no conflict there, and then by the way, if there is a final state, that means you are saying that the contradiction would not exist in that state. So that means automatically, inherently, the matter which was contradicting itself reaches a state where it would stop doing that. So why would it stop doing it at that stage and not at this stage? Yani, what is the I mean, you obviously don't control the matter. Neither they claim it nor we claim it. So that's a very fictitious comment to make in the first place. So also think about the inherent contradiction in it. The inherent contradiction in it is that when they are talking about something that exists and doesn't exist, question, question, whatever exists, how can it exist if existence and non-existence are equal? If there is an equal possibility of something to exist versus not existing, how can they ever come into existence? Something has to bring it to existence so that the preponderance towards existence would go. No?
I mean,
Yes.
couldn't they just say that it would just randomly half the times it would exist and the other half it wouldn't?
Then there is another problem, even if that is the case. Okay, even if that is the case. Okay, next question then. Okay, and every time there is an H2 and O, there should be water, right? Or O and two hydrogen, or two hydrogen and an oxygen, whichever way you want to go, right? How come we have different compounds? There should always be one outcome. You understand? Because you're saying that inherently the matter has a tendency, so it would go in a direction, right? Okay, so then they have hydrogen, then they have oxygen. Okay, so then it should, oh, there should be no other product than water all the time. But that is not the case. Many a times there is hydrogen and oxygen, there is no water. There is helium and other oxygen, for example, compound. Right? Helium is two hydrogen coming together. Just helium. Right? Second two, and periodic table, it's the number 2, lithium number 3, and so on. Right? So my point is, even there it doesn't hold, because if there is a causality, right? Causality through contradiction. Contradiction is yes or no. It's a black and white thing, correct? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, correct? Okay, so then if there is a yes, no contradiction and there is a causality, that's the causality. Well, then how is it that you have differences? Because it's a black and white process. You understand? I mean, you get it,
Yes.
right? So there are layers and layers of problem, whichever way you get. अगर मिसाइद खुद तुमरा दफना कुनीद आदम अवलिनस के चारा ना kan. Stop digging. The more you dig, the deeper you're gonna go into this. Okay. The only reason people get confused is because they don't know their own problem, own knowledge. That is why people become confused. But if you that is the point of this short mental exercise was to belabor the point that if you understood these definitions of contradiction and existence and all these small things that I'm trying to teach you, if you actually imbibed it, absorbed it, and understood this, you will never go here or there, not mentally at least. I mean, you can go here and there by choice. That's a different issue. But here, mentally, you can always sort things out. Easy species. So therefore, you need to understand the basics of contradiction. Okay, what they are talking about is opposition, meaning within the matter, there are positivities, negativities that may or may not contribute towards various interactions that matter undergoes in order to become a third entity, whatever that is. Okay, but who contested that? He never contested that. But that's not a contradiction, that's opposition. Because remember, we said when any of these things are not the same, this is no more a contradiction, it becomes opposition. And again, if you go out to our previous example, when we brought in the Western example and we said, look, they are saying the apple can be green, neither red nor blue. Right? That was an example of opposition. It was not a contradiction. But they call it contradiction. This is important for you to understand. Okay, because people get confused In Quranic language, therefore, we call it waswas. They create doubts in you. Kind of mental turbulence. Okay. So if you have known, then you can at least choose, as long as you make a choice to apply the correct principle and accept and reject it that way, you will be fine. And when you do this, this is called what? Servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is ubudiyah. Because you did the right thing, for the right purpose, the right time, under the right circumstance. Regardless of what you wanted and what you didn't want. But you did it because it was the right thing to do. That is called the servitude. Right? And when you do it in a proper way through the servitude, you will then understand the reality of things. And you will therefore understand the reality of this. What is the problem taking you here and where you need to go correctly? What is the reality of the issue? The reality of the issue is noise. Understand, whatever is not true is noise. Just noise. So is it, did you get it? Right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe so.
So,
Yeah,
it's
very mamnun.
very
Right.
clear.
Yeah. So don't complicate things. Look at the simplest issue at hand. Yeah. They will succeed if they make it complicated for you. Okay. And you will be successful if you can see to cut through the noise and go to the actual issue and go from there.
Aslam,
Okay.
aslam.
Okay. Now, after today, when we go there, I will help you guys understand what are the kind of noise that can be thrown at you as a mental exercise. Because, first of all, I have actually debated in universities. I don't know, in Iran, فكرة كانوا بود باكستان خیلی هم بود. یعنی ما باقاعده یعنی مناظره میکردیم با این کمونیست ها و با این یعنی ماده پرست ها واقعا یعنی in universities we used to actually جدال میکردیم on stage in front of people. یعنی اینا محکم بودن.
درسته. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know about Tehran, etc., Hastianis, but yeah, but we in Pakistan, in Karachi, in big universities, we used to actually have these debates. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'm guessing there was a lot more before, but after the collapse of the Soviet Union, I think the bigger debate is with ultra capitalists and neoliberals and stuff right now.
Actually easy to handle if you know your stuff.
Yeah, I don't think
it,
theirs is based on logic. I think it appeals to
exactly
just the human want to buy stuff and own stuff. It's not
exactly
really a
yeah.
debate, honestly.
Yeah, it's not really a debate or anything. It's as too khaliya.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. اینا که از تو خالیه اصلا هیچ نداره. آره. اونا که علالقل یک سری چیزهایی را ساختن آوردن جلو.
Yeah, I
اینا که
agree.
هیچ.
Well, not حرفی دارم برای زدن. They can actually they have an intellectual framework at least. These
Yeah.
guys are just like buy stuff, be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. So So if you are capable of handling hard, the hard becomes easy. And once the hard is easy, rest of it is really easy. Right?
Cool. Then it makes sense to cover this.
Yeah, so that is why. Okay, I want you to understand this basic understanding, because you can get messed up in words. You say, oh, I use the same word. Like, I always give you example. With the word, we call it complicated headache. If you call complicated headache, if you listen to it, you will think, oh, it's a headache which is very difficult to treat. Complicated headache. But that is not the meaning of this. The meaning of a complicated headache for us is a headache that has stroke-like symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So the word complicated for you means one thing, but for me means completely different.
Yeah, so it boils down to words again and their definitions and meanings.
So focus on the thing. And also when they are talking about contradiction, that this thing is colliding with this thing. Well, these are two different things. If they are two different things, how come it is a contradiction?
Exactly.
Not a contradiction. It's opposition. If it's opposition, we have no problem. Why are you unnecessarily conflating one thing or the over the other? Okay, so basically they are just giving you a rana, which is a classic satanic move.
What?
This not good, they are just confused, and they maybe fall victim to this themselves. I'm not saying they are Satan themselves. Astaghfirullah. That's not what my point is. My point is that's when we get into this kind of an environment, that's what happens to our mind and our thinking. Okay, and the only way to get out of this is through clarity. Wait, take a deep breath, take a step back, look at what they're saying, analyze it, put it together, and then you will see that there is actually no contradiction. If there is no contradiction, then what the hell are we talking about? We call it in logic, salibebe intifai mawdu, extinction of the argument, right? Because the subject matter is extinct. There is no subject matter which is the same. They are two different subject matters. So why are we arguing? There's no argument left. You guys will understand that's law. That's how you treat legal arguments too. There are two different issues. You say, well, let's keep it aside. Let's stick to this one. Once we're done with this one, then we're going to go to that one. Or not. Depend. Right? Same thing.
Yeah.
All
that's
right. Okay, then, hey, next week, please make it so that we can you are either done or we make it.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. I'm working on it today too, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, no problem. No problem. We are done and I told you my dates, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
Can
it
we
is
stop
possible.
recording, by the way?
Oh. Yes. Yeah.